Well, greetings everyone, and welcome once again to another Wednesday night edition of the Sports Crib. As usual, we are right here on Facebook and YouTube. You can check us out on our YouTube station. You can subscribe and donate, as you see below, to our Cash App, $ JEK3. Well, I see Dave is down there ready and raring to go. So let's get Dave up here on the stage. Dave, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, okay, James.
Yeah. How's your weather there?
Well, we had rain today. It was a rainy day today, but we had a couple nice days before. So, you know,
Well, contrary to popular belief, it'll be raining here in Southern California again this weekend.
sunny Las Vegas or
Yeah.
sunny San Diego or
Oh, well, it's been sunny for the last 4 days. It's been very nice, sunny and whatnot. But we will have our rain. Saturday, Friday, and Saturday. I believe it's 60 and 65%. It's supposed to be pretty heavy, but you know, uh, they need rain out in the desert too. So what the hell, you know?
that's
I
right.
don't I don't live in the mountains, so I don't care how much snow they get. It's fine with me.
Even the cacti have to drink once in a while.
Yeah, I have a cactus garden out in the front of my house, so I understand. Better than me. It saves me the water having to go out there and water them, so it's fine. But uh, while we're waiting for some of the other guys to come, Dave, I know Bo is having his cable installed. He moved last week, and he's having some work done on his cable. Reggie's out tonight, but hopefully Demetrius, Mr. Scott will probably be a late addition as usual. But anyway, let's kind of get started here. And what I'll do is we'll start with Sue's Corner.
All right, sounds good. She did have something. This news is actually from about 10 days ago, but here's Sue's corner. One thing you need to know about Pittsburghers is that they are generally very nice, friendly people, unless you upset them enough to turn what we locals refer to as the Pittsburgh corner. That means that basically you've done something bad enough that we will just ignore you until the end of time. We turn the corner from you, and there's rarely, if ever, going back. A great example of this is the departure of Kenny Pickett. Now, Kenny is from New Jersey, but he has lived long enough in Pittsburgh to understand the mentality of the town. So there's no excuses for him. He could have handled his departure from the Steelers like Mason Rudolph with grace, not like a pouting child that didn't get his way. So Pittsburgh is done with him, and so are some of their businesses. One of these is the famous Primani brothers. They serve those giant sandwiches with French fries in the sandwich and
And
name
I
many of them.
still miss him, Dave. I still miss him. Yeah.
Right. And they name a lot of the sandwiches after local sports heroes like the Roethlisberger. Primani Brothers had a unique offer for anyone with a Kenny Pickett jersey. And I think that they specified a Steelers jersey. In a news release last Friday night, Primani Brothers said anyone who exchanges their Pittsburgh Steelers Kenny Pickett jersey will receive a $25 gift card. And in quote, we know many Pittsburghers spent their hard-earned dollars on a Pickett jersey, said Adam Colomb, CEO of Primani Brothers, in the news release. And we hate the idea of that hard work going to waste. So we figured we'd help ease the pain, unquote. Another business is the famous amusement park Kennywood.
Yes.
Anyone turning in a Pickett jersey there gets a free day pass. You really don't want to experience the ire of a burger. It took my mom years to forgive Ben Roethlisberger for riding his motorcycle without a helmet and not realizing how many people's happiness depended on his doing well and not being reckless. It did help a lot that he won that second Super Bowl. So that's Sue's corner.
Oh man, and she's
Talking about the Pittsburgh corner.
oh man, hey, and she's talking about Permane brothers, and it's unique, I think, to Pittsburgh. When I first moved back to Pittsburgh, well, when I started going to culinary school in Pittsburgh, I went to Permane Brothers and I got this sandwich Friday night. Everybody's out. That was the strip district. And I'm seeing them put these French fries and the coleslaw and everything on my sandwich. And I hate soggy bread. There's nothing that I hate more than a soggy sandwich.
Right.
And it worked.
It worked. Yeah.
It worked.
I've had a few.
Yeah, it worked. I can't knock them. And Kennywood, I believe, still has one of only, it's either 12 or 6 wooden roller coasters still in existence.
Yeah, one of the few, I think.
Yeah, it's either 1 or 6 or 12. I love roller coasters. Even after I've had my heart attack, I still love roller coasters. But don't tell my doctor that. But anyway, yeah, brings back old memories there. But like you say, when you turn that Pittsburgh corner, boy,
that's it.
I still haven't forgiven Ben. I'm still hollering that he stayed there 2 years too long. But so maybe I can turn my Pittsburgh corner back and forgive Ben.
Yeah, well, at games, if they're unhappy, they boo. Yeah, I mean, they can have a great record, but if they perform badly, they'll boo the team. They're not shy about it. And it doesn't matter how good they're doing or how bad they're doing. They'll let them know.
No, those are Pittsburgh fans. I mean, Three Rivers all the way up to what's it called now? Allied Field,
Acusure Stadium.
Okay, well. Dave, I'm sorry that there's not more guys here because I try not to talk about crime and stuff like that because this is a sports show. But when I see some of the headlines, I kind of think it's things that we need to talk about, especially when you talk about people my age, people your age, and Mr. Scott. Reggie and their generation might have a different take on it. But I saw in the headlines the Utah women's team being harassed by men with Confederate flags, shouting racial slurs. This was one instance. And I kind of let that pass by. I'm like, it's Utah, da-da-da-da. But then I get another article from Real Madrid, a Brazilian soccer player, talking about him losing his respect and his love for the game because of what he has to endure when he gets on the field. And it takes me back to a few years ago when LeBron and the team held their black T-shirt theme. And one of the Fox newscasters said that athletes have no business delving into politics. and told LeBron to basically shut up and dribble. And Dave, I look at the current situation, and I think back, at some of our greats. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, formerly known as Lou Alcindor.
Yep.
Jim Taylor. Excuse me, not Jim Taylor, excuse me. Jim Brown. And some of the things that these athletes had to go through. And I'm from that generation. And people keep telling me that we're making progress. But when I see these headlines, I have to ask myself, are we? What's your thoughts?
Well, let me, we really don't know each other all that well, so I'll give you a little bit of my background. And, I'm first generation American. My mother came over on the boat from Eastern Europe. My father came over from Nicaragua. They met at a streetcar corner in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm the product of. And actually, I mean, I don't consider myself white. I don't consider myself a color. That's just not the way my mother brought me up. She was twice widowed, but she was a strong woman. And I grew up in Pittsburgh, the city of Pittsburgh proper in the 1960s. And as you can well remember, the 1960s was a pretty traumatic period. But in our household, race was never a point of discussion. And for my mother, the way she brought me up, we were Catholic, but she would take me to different services. I would go to Orthodox. She would take me to a synagogue. She belonged to what was called the Samovar Club, which was an international club with people from all over the world, including local Pittsburghers of all colors. And that's the way we were brought up, was to gravitate to the good people, because as my mother would say, is there's some bad hombres out there. And so she wanted me to gravitate to the good people. So that's kind of my background. And my two best friends, they were the best men I had two best men in my wedding because I couldn't choose between the two of them. Well, one is from Sierra Leone, Wadi, and the other is a black guy, Charlie. We've known each other since we were little kids, and his parents were North Carolina dirt farmers. I mean, literally scrabbling the dirt. And I was a pallbearer at both of their funerals. And unfortunately, this whole thing with race is just, I think a lot of it is born out of ignorance. And I took a look at the demographics of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And Sue's actually been there before. But Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is 93.8% white, 0.4% African American. This is from the 2010 census, and I doubt that it's changed much. And 4.3% Hispanic. So in other words, it's a pretty homogenous population, and I think a lot of the hatred, I think, is born out of ignorance. They don't know. They don't interact. And even here in the DC area, well, we have the metro. Well, we have regular reports of like people just getting punched in the face. And it's the opposite in that case. That's black on white. But then there's plenty of white on black. And so this whole division, I think, it is born out of ignorance. And the guy that I really admire, and I've mentioned him before, but it's Daryl Davis. And he's a blues musician. And his father was a foreign service officer. But he was playing, and then he was going into some parts of Maryland that were like KKK. This is going back in the day, back in our day, right? And he actually decided after a couple altercations I need to understand these people. And so what he did, Daryl Davis, is he befriended several Ku Klux Klan members to the point where one of them gave him his robe and eventually had him be the godmother of his own child.
Yeah, I remember that story well. Yeah.
Yeah, and so with and this works with everybody, but it's just trying to break through the ignorance and being human to human instead of all this. Well, hey, this is my group here and this is my group here. We're all human, and I think that's the way that Daryl Davis was able to break through, and he's actually gotten. It's been a number. I don't know the exact number, but it's been quite a few, more than 10 of these former Ku Klux or Ku Klux Klan members that he got to give it up because they once they got to know him and to see that he was just another human just like them, he won them over. So yeah, and one of the people, Robert Wardell, he's on the chat. He's in Seattle, and that's about 5 hours from Coeur d'Alene. He says that he can tell us that Coeur d'Alene is old, rich, white people. Yeah, it's very homogenous when I was looking at the demographics, but it's an unfortunate thing, and I just wish the team had stayed in Coeur d'Alene to make a point rather than leave, because that's disengaging. I would rather have had them stay and make a point. Hey, we're here. This is who we are, and play their games accordingly. To me, that would be the way I would do it. Now, I'm not the coach of the team. She had her own reasons for doing what she did, and after all, she's trying to protect her players,
Right.
Which I get.
Young ladies.
Yeah. But still, for me, if it were me, I would say we're staying. And I'm sure that the other people of Coeur d'Alene, the more enlightened people in Coeur d'Alene, once they heard of these incidents, they would have rallied around that team. That's my belief.
Dave, at one point, I might have agreed with you. But because it was a bunch of young ladies, I understand for the safety of the team, but also we have become so accustomed to violence. I also think that it was more than just for the safety of the team, because evidently this crowd was rowdy enough where, they couldn't move them to a different floor, or, under normal circumstances, I'm a veteran. I'm with you, like stand my ground, but
well, they could switch the hotel. I just wouldn't have left the city though. I would have stayed if they were getting harassed inside the hotel, which I didn't hear that part. I heard about the car driving up and people saying things. Yeah. But then I would go to another hotel and I would tell the other hotel what happened and just say, hey, we're here. And I would make a point. My nature is to engage and not violently, not I don't believe in rioting and all that kind of nonsense. I don't buy into that at all. But I believe in standing my ground and engaging. And I'm not gonna. Hey, I'm here, and that's it. You don't have to accept me, but I'm here.
But I also blame the NCAA, because they should have had some type of scout team or someone come through there to be aware of this problem and then make that decision, or let the team make that decision, whether or not they wanted to go there, whether they wanted to stay or not.
Yeah, I guess, the unfortunate thing is that there's different parts of the country that you can't go to, and there's different parts of the country I can't go to, right?
Yeah.
It works both ways. And like there's parts of Philadelphia, you got to know Philly. And Pittsburgh is a little bit different. I mean, I'm comfortable going almost anywhere in Pittsburgh. Philadelphia, different story. You got to know where you're at, and it would be the same for you as it would be for me.
Well, the hill has changed a lot. I lived in the hill in the 70s, and then I came back and lived in the hill in the 90s before they tore down all the projects and things, what was going on up there. And at that particular time, there were places that even on the hill, if I didn't know someplace I couldn't, somebody I couldn't go. But it just seems to me in 2024, we are still fighting some of the battles that we fought in 1964. But I guess, such as the consequences of living so long.
Yeah,
But
and this is fair. This is linked directly to the women's tournament. I mean, you can't just separate it out. You just can't say, well, hey, that incident didn't happen because it's a sports team. The whole, reducing or the whole, stick to sports, not politics. But the problem is if those actions are bleeding over into sports, you just can't ignore them. So
yeah, no. But anyway, that's not what we're here for. Let's talk some sports.
all right,
So let's.
I do have a bracket, by the way.
Oh, you okay? And well, we'll be getting to that in a moment here. So since you have a bracket, how is your bracket?
Well, amazingly for me, because I got caught onto the wrestling this year. I was really engrossed in it.
Yes.
But, for the Sweet 16, I got 13. I only did one bracket. I got 13 of the 16 picks in.
Oh,
And then unfortunately, Kentucky, I think that blew everybody. It blew most people's bracket. And I picked Auburn and Baylor to make the Sweet 16. But those are the three I missed on. So right now we'll see what the because Creighton was like my little sleeper. I like Creighton,
yeah.
and they made it to the Sweet 16.
I think I have Creighton getting to the Final Four even. But yeah, right now I have 12, I believe, out of the 16, and I'm in the 63rd percentile. But it's, I tell you, as you know, San Diego State is in there, and they made the Final Four last year. Um, my physical therapist, he's a alumni of UConn, and of course, he lives out here in San Diego, but he's picking UConn to win it all. I have Houston winning it all, so but I have them playing San Diego State. I'm hoping. When you look on paper, of course, UConn is the better team, the much deeper team. But
Well, they lost to Seton Hall earlier in the season. So
they also lost to Creighton. So
well, Creighton's that's a really good team. Seton Hall's not in the same league as Creighton.
yeah, no.
You might. San Diego, their best chances if they get Connecticut looking past them.
Well, that or Lede has an exceptional game. They finally start hitting their threes. They had only hit 11 threes up until the tournament, and so far they've hit 12. So, if they get hot from three and the Dave has his game, anything is possible. But I'm a homer here. So I did take San Diego State. So we'll see.
I took UConn.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, I mean, most people took UConn. UConn is favored. Like I said, I'm a homer here. This is, I have to put my hand up. Yes, I'm a homer. So,
yeah, but Connecticut's not unbeatable.
no,
I mean,
no.
they've shown it. So,
And like I said, we're not chopped liver out here. They did lose three of their starting five because of the day came off the bench last year. So we'll see. But I'm hopeful. Just like we are about the Steelers getting to the Super Bowl. So yeah. Okay, let's see. Another situation, Dave. Prime time. He says that he wants his son and Travis Hunter to pull an Eli Manning at the 2025 draft. I'm sure you remember what that was, Dave, when Eli said, I'm not. In fact, he was supposed to come out here to San Diego.
right.
And he said, no, 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 no. And Daddy said no, and the Manning family said, we're not going to San Diego. So San Diego traded him to the Giants. But my question, Dave, is do you think that either one of these or both will have enough clout come draft time to be able to be successful at that? I mean, Eli was a number one draft choice. I don't, as much as I like these guys, I don't see either one of them being a number one. I mean, in some cases, they might even be a second rounder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right now, like the NFL draft buzz has Shadur as the number one quarterback prospect for 2025. And actually has Travis Hunter down as the number two prospect as a defensive back. And but there's a long way to go. We it was interesting. We were talking about the team earlier in the season, last season, early in the season, before they kind of had all those losses. And then it just looked like they were just going to dominate. And then all of a sudden they had a string of losses. They had some injuries. There were some other reasons. But first of all, did they come through 2024 healthy? Second of all, did they both put up big seasons? Now, I think that because of Dion, Shader might have enough clout. Now, can Dion's reach include Travis Hunter? I don't know. I could almost see teams kind of, okay, you're Dion's son. And Dion's very much a part of it. Maybe concede something, but they don't want to do that. They're doing that against their instincts. And so I doubt that Travis Hunter would have that reach, even if he was a better prospect. I don't know if Dion has that big of a shield for both. If you see what I'm saying.
Precisely, that's what I was saying. Did you think that either one or both would have enough clout?
I think Shadur could because of his dad, and I could see a team kind of in the NFL, kind of okay, kind of like with Eli Manning. He had his dad Archie Manning. He kind of had a legacy. I don't know how much Archie was involved in that, but I don't know if that would extend to Travis. And this all is caveated on how well do they do next season? Do they remain one of the top prospects at their respective positions?
Yeah, like you said, that is. I didn't really think about that, whether or not that would happen or not. But I see Mr. Scott is in the house, so let's get Mr. Scott in here and see what he thinks. Good evening, Mr. Scott. How are you doing?
Very good, good. Except for a snowstorm, so I'm pissed about that. But might be gone by the weekend. So
Well, wait a minute, Mr. Scott. Last week you were telling us about how bright it was and how you were glad that you lived up in Minnesota. And
well, I didn't say all that. I didn't say all that. I'm glad to live up here. I didn't say all that. It has been great. All of a sudden, boom, we got hit with everything. So, but it's going to go by the weekend. So we're getting weather like we never had before. I never really paid much attention to weather. When it's winter, it's cold, and I just put on my coat and go outside. But so yeah, they're really switching up on us.
Well, I think I used to always tell people when I came out here, when I lived in Pittsburgh, it would snow on the first day of spring, and they didn't believe me. See, now here you go, Mr. Scott. What is it? The 27th of March? But it's Minnesota. I mean, but
Yeah,
there's no such thing as global warming. Let me get off my high
yeah,
horse.
conspiracy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all a conspiracy. But Mr. Scott, we were talking about Deion Sanders. Actually, we were talking about Travis Hunter and his son Shador. Uh, where Deion was saying where he wants them to pull an Archie Manning. They only go to certain cities. And I was asking Dave, do you think that in 2025, when these guys come out of school, do you think that either one or both of them will be high enough draft choices where they can have that much clout?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Dion is somewhat. I mean, he's somewhat fraudulent to me, and I have to say that because he's held in such high esteem as a defensive back, but you know, he never wanted to really hit anybody. He never really
Oh,
was physical. He wasn't a physical defensive player. I mean, so he's somewhat fraudulent. I don't know. He might pull some strings with Jerry Jones if Jerry Jones is still around. I mean, they get with Dallas. I don't know. I mean, their play is what should really guide where they go and how far they go. Not their management, not the hype machine. And that's to me kind of what Dion is.
the hype machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, his son seems to be a good quarterback. I mean, he does seem to have potential as a good quarterback, but he's young. He probably should stay in college a few years, get some real offensive type coaching. I mean, and I think he could be. I think he could be a top quarterback. I don't know, but I think he could be a good quarterback.
yeah. They say he's projected as one of the top quarterbacks coming out of the class of 2025. So,
Yeah.
uh, and Travis Hunter is projected to be one of the top DBs coming out in
And
2025.
it matters what teams you go to. I mean, a good example. I was talking to my brother the other day about Steve Young. He keeps saying he's better than Joe Montana and all that, and we're like, okay, so he goes to the USFL. He was a bust. He was really considered a bust. And then somehow they got him in San Francisco, where he sat behind Montana for about 4 or 5 years. He sat behind Joe Montana about 4 or 5 years, and then he played. So a lot of it is the team you go to and the time you get there, I think.
Yeah, Steve Young
Yeah.
was considered a bust when he went to the USFL. I remember how they talked about it real bad on Sundays. And the USFL was a diaper dandy league as far as I was concerned back then, but that's another conversation. Um, Mr. Scott, I'm going to go back even further, and I want to ask you about the situation uh, where we had the Utah women's basketball team had to move out of their hotel due to uh, a potential for racial crimes being committed in the particular town that they were in. And there was another headline about a Real Madrid Brazilian soccer player who said that he had lost his love of the game because of all the racism that he had to go through when he was on the soccer field. So I kind of asked Mr. Scott, when you look at how things are, I mean, you remember the Fox newscaster that told, LeBron, to shut up and dribble. They didn't have any, business putting his nose in social affairs, social media, and that. Mr. Scott, have things really changed? I mean, I remember, the things that, Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had to go through. I'm sure you remember some of the things that Jackie Robinson and some of the other players had to go through. Mr. Scott, have things really changed?
Well, it's so unfortunate, but that's kind of and right now it continues to be the elephant in the room in this country. I mean, I think so many of these things are, the media sweeps things away. They want to get rid of a lot of the history so that we can teach, this history. And the whole idea of history to me is to learn from it, is to learn that, people have lived lives before these lives and have made these mistakes. So why do we keep doing this over and over? I mean, I think it's proven in sports, especially in the sports arena, that, who has talent is shown in the sports arena. And that's just, that's really how things should really be. But unfortunately, there's still pockets of people, pockets of things. I mean, people say things like Fox News. You watch, even now, you watch different newscasts, you get different perspectives. And sometimes I see some of these things and, their perspectives are slanted. So no, have we really? Yeah, we've changed. It's not overt. I mean, you can go where you want, you can do what you want on the surface, but I still think there's that undercurrent that I don't know how it gets swept away. It's that bridge thing in Baltimore. I watched that thing crumble like a toy. I mean, I'm like, and people are saying, well, the people that were on the bridge working were illegal aliens. Most of them were, and so here we go. Here people getting these type of jobs that maybe people here wouldn't be too happy about or interested in doing those type of jobs. But then I wondered, okay, did they have insurance? Did they have workers' comp? Did they have any? I mean, are they just swept away because they were brought up here? Nobody knows they were legal or not. I mean, it's just that type of thing with people coming up and working and leaving. It's gone on forever. The cheap labor is what seems to be the bottom line. So, but yeah, that's unfortunate what has to happen, especially to young people. I think it's really a slap in the face when young people are trying to compete and they go somewhere and then they're treated like that. I mean, I think that's really, as adults, we all should know better now.
Yeah, it would seem so.
Yeah.
Well, guys, let's get to the NFL here. And boy, there have been some changes. So let's see where you guys want to start at. Let's see.
Well, I'd like to start with the Pittsburgh quarterback situation. I'd like, my two. I'll shut up and listen here. I'll just sit back in my chair and relax and listen to the. Yeah, tell me about that. They don't want to talk about that yet. They're not prepared.
We're going to talk about that after you talk about your Vikings, but right now we want to talk about all these changes that have been made. No more fair catch, for one. Uh, you They've extended the trade deadline to week 9. After week 9, to follow week 9 games. They approve a ban on swivel hip drop tackles. And to me, this really puts DBs at a defensive disadvantage. I mean, can you imagine trying to, like hit Derrick Henry, and he's got that one step ahead of you? How else are you supposed to bring him down? Except, well, anyway, okay. The owners also adopted a third rule challenge, where if you get one of your two challenges right, you now get a third one. They've also approved a massive revamp in the kickoff play. As I said, there will be no such thing as a fair catch this season. So, Mr. Scott, you want to jump in on any of these, all of these, or what do you think? Are we going to be playing flag football pretty soon, or what?
Well, as far as the hitting and that goes, I would really love to hear what Lawrence Taylor would have to say about this. I would really love to hear what one of the people from his era would actually feel about you can't touch people. You got to kind of fix yourself or you can hit them. And I don't understand the punt thing. I mean, so what are you supposed to just let the punt go?
No, this is on the kickoff.
It's on the kickoff.
What they eliminated was fair catches in front of the goal line. Remember last year, you could fair catch at the 5-yard line, and then they would put the ball up at the 25.
Oh yeah,
So they got rid of that, and the kicker's going to stay at the 35.
But if the kick goes through the goal line, you get the ball at the 30, right?
Yes, at the 30.
And
if you kick it into the end zone.
Yeah, but if you kick it and it goes through the end zone, you get the ball at the 25 or something like that.
No, I think the 30. They're kind of the kicker kind of gets punished if he kicks it through the end zone. So
right. That's what I'm saying. If he kicks it through the end zone, it gets extra. But if it gets short of the end zone and goes through the end zone, it comes out on a different place, I thought.
Yeah, it's going to be a little complicated, and it's going to look a lot different. The big thing is it's going to look different because on the kickoff team, the kicker's at the 35. Well, the 10 players are lined up on the
40. Right, and they can't move until the guy catches the ball. Am I correct?
What?
Correct. Yeah, they're actually they're in front of the 50 at the 40.
Yeah.
And then the other team is like 5 yards away, and then they're in 2 tiers. So when they kick off the team, they can't leave that 40 until the ball either hits the ground or the player fields the ball.
Yeah.
Because you got, like, say you kick it to the goal line, that's only 40 yards away. They're going to be there in 4.5 seconds. And so they've modified the kickoff that was being used in either the XFL or the USFL last season.
The UFL last year. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the UFL now.
Yeah.
After the merger. But they modified the kickoff that they were using last year. So it's going to look different. But you're going to get a lot more returns,
especially in dome stadiums like yours, Mr. Scott.
Well, how are you going to get more returns if the ball is? So if it's kicked into the end zone, that's a penalty.
No, it's not a penalty. It's just
the ball comes out to the 30.
Even if the guy catches it and wants to return it.
No, he can return it from the end zone if he wants.
Okay. Well, that whole thing is coming. I don't know, that whole thing coming to the 30 and giving more. I mean, you're supposed to be on defense. You're supposed to be on offense at the time. You're supposed to earn your way. I don't understand why you didn't start. What's wrong with starting at the 20? I mean, in high
Well, what
school,
they'll do then, because now for the kicking team, it's to their advantage. They're pushing everybody to the 20. And so then they had a decision to make. Do we get rid of the kickoff altogether? Because it was becoming there was like 1,000 plays last year that were actually no plays. And a lot of them were these kickoffs. Or, do we change the rules in order to get the kick return back into the game? Because the kick return was leaving the game.
Yeah.
So like if a kicker kicks it to the goal line, well, the other team is starting from the 40. Well, you're going to have to work to reach the 30 or the 25. You're going to have a lot of work to do.
But if the one if neither team can move until the kick returner catches the ball or touches the ball, isn't that advantage to the receiving team?
Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
I'm just,
Well, I don't know why the change. I guess some of the change is because kickers kick the ball farther now, and there's nothing but touchbacks, and it's not an exciting. It's a perfunctory type of a thing. Then I guess they could move the kickoff back. Would seem to make more sense. Just like they did. The goalposts used to be closer, didn't they? Didn't the goalposts?
The goalposts used to be on the goal line.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could also eliminate kickers.
Yeah. Well, what they were, I think the reason that they didn't want to move it back or something like that is because the issue that they've had on the returns is you got the kicking team kicking off from the 35, sprinting downfield, and they're at a full tilt, and then there was a lot of injuries happening, even after they got rid of the wedge and all that. Now, since they're starting from the 40, well, they're not, and then you got the blockers closer to engage them. They're not going to be going at a full tilt in order to tackle the returner or to break through the blocks.
But David, now I have to ask you about this hip drop tackle, because this is actually a rugby tackle, and
not exactly, but it's been. I've used it a lot in rugby,
right?
As a lighter guy, yeah.
As like I said, when you're a DB and Derrick Henry has another step on you, what are you supposed to do? Let him go?
Yeah. Now, I think it's all going to come in the way they officiate it, and it's not just dropping your weight. That's not enough. What they're talking about is a situation of where you're tackling the guy, and then you swing your legs up above, and then bring them down, so they come down into a tangle. And so, the reason that the Steelers supported the rule is they were going back to, I think it was the 2017 season. Burfict did that to Le'Veon Bell and knocked him out from 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
And when you see that video, you'll see his legs whipping up and around. And then that's what hurt Le'Veon's knee in that game.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, if you're a lighter guy, this puts you at a great disadvantage.
Yeah, I mean, you can still tackle them from behind, drop your weight without doing all this swinging nonsense. But then I think the problem for the referees is how do you call that in real time?
Yeah.
And I think in part what's going to happen is, unless they're probably not going to throw the flag a lot unless somebody gets hurt. But what will happen is we'll find out during the week, hey, such and such a player got fined for a hip drop tackle.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to happen. But to me, I mean, I played rugby for about 15 years. And yeah, I tackled a lot of guys, not necessarily swinging my legs up, but
not
I mean, I would drop my weight. I would drop my weight. That's the only way you can bring a heavier guy down.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's not that you do it intentionally, but if you're bringing down a heavier guy, sometimes his momentum makes you swing around.
Right, exactly. And so then, how do the referees call that?
Right.
Judge that. That's going to be the really difficult thing.
Yeah.
Preseason is going to be interesting.
Yeah. All right, guys. Dave, this one's for you. More likely to trade up for a quarterback, the Raiders or the Broncos?
Well, I was looking at this. Vegas, they got a hold of Gardner Minshew, and then they have that Aiden O'Connell that started like 10 games. And then they have somebody named Anthony Brown, but they got 3 quarterbacks on their roster right now. And they're picking number 13 in the draft. Denver is picking number 12 in the draft. But right now, I can only find a guy named Ben DiNucci, who I don't think has ever played in the NFL, and Jarrett Stidham, who started 4 games. And so I'm thinking I would think it's more likely for the Broncos to trade up than it is for the Raiders, because the Raiders are a little bit better stocked. They got a guy that had 10 starts, and then you got Gardner Minshew, who's a journeyman but has been around for a few years. Denver, I can only find those 2 quarterbacks, DiNucci and that Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah.
And then the I guess I don't know if you call that sack of $85 million quarterback or not, but
hey, well, anytime I wish somebody would pay $85 million for me. I'd be glad. Where do I have to go?
Great job, yeah.
Mr. Scott, what's your thoughts on that? Like you said, the Raiders picked 12, and was it one picks 12 and one picks 13?
Yeah.
Or was it 11 and 12?
No, Raiders 13 and Denver 12.
Yeah. Okay. 12 and 13. Yeah. All right.
Well, there'll probably be more wheeling and dealing as we get to this thing. I mean, it's like, these top 5 or 4 quarterbacks that are out there, the jury's kind of out on which one is the best, which one isn't. And then there's a few of them that are out of that top 5 that I don't think anyone's talking about, but they may be more thought of than people are letting on right now. With all this movement, it's, boy, I mean, even look at the 49ers. I mean, you think they're set, but the quarterback was still Mr. Irrelevant. He didn't get them to where they want to go. And
but they're getting ready to pay him, Mr. Scott. They're getting ready to give him the bag. Watch.
Yeah. Well, it would seem to make sense. I mean, as a young guy that came in on the cheap as Mr. Irrelevant, so he's proven some things. So I could see that too. And then, of course, they have the Rocket Man went there, I heard. The guy that was with the Vikings.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he went to San Francisco.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we got a rocket scientist in San Francisco now, huh? Okay.
Yeah. He signed with them, so we'll see. He moves around a lot, so you never know where he'll end up. But
I was hoping Pittsburgh would bring him back, but as it worked out well. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'd like to see how it's working out well. I'm not understanding that one at all. I'm mystified by it.
Okay, well, I'm going to make sure that we're going to talk about that in depth. Mr. Scott, the not yets, known as the New York Jets, have not had a winning season for 8 consecutive seasons now. Now that we have a fully healthy ayahuasca, does the streak stop, Mr. Scott?
with the Jets, they're not a team much on my radar. So I can't really say. I mean, they seem that they have a young quarterback, don't they?
Aaron Rodgers is not young.
Oh, you mean Jones or
Oh, well, Matt Jones. I mean, not Jones. Is he still with them? No, the other guys.
No.
Zach isn't Zach. Wasn't Zach their quarterback? Zach Wilson.
Yeah,
oh that yeah. That's right.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm
Rogers
thinking
might
of
be
the wrong
running
team.
for. Rogers might be going into politics. I hear. So I don't. I'm not sure what.
Well,
Talk about him being on the ticket, the vice president or something.
yeah, they're talking about it. Him running with Joe Kennedy Jr. Maybe he'll be the VP, him or Jesse Ventura. So he, he hasn't decided which one yet. But uh, what do you think, Dave? Is losing seasons over for the Jets?
No, no. And this is my reasoning. One is I don't think I think that Buffalo and Miami are both better than the Jets. New England, okay, they could sweep New England, but they're going to have the best I see them doing in their division is 3-3 at best, maybe 2-4. But then, looking at their home teams, they're going to be hosting, in addition to their division, the Texans, who've really improved, the Colts, who have been doing a lot of work, the Broncos may be vulnerable, the Rams had a horrible season last year, but they got some good pieces. In Seattle, and then on the road they got Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Minnesota, San Francisco, and Arizona. So maybe Arizona, Jacksonville, Tennessee, maybe, but I think that they're going to be like 8-9, 7-10. I don't think they're there.
Okay. Dave, the Chargers general manager says that the running back Gus Edwards, who used to be with the Ratbirds, will now be the bell cow for Coach Jim Harbaugh's offense. Dave, do you think Gus Edwards gives them more versatility than their former running back Austin Eckler?
No, I think running wise, yeah. I mean, I think he might be able to match Eckler's running stats, but the receiving stats, he's not in the ballpark. He only has like 30 receptions total, and now he does have them for longer yards, but he hasn't demonstrated that he's a running back that's going to get regular receptions, because after several seasons, he only has 30 total receptions, I think. So that's a lack of versatility. And what I'm not sure about is how are they as blockers? I'd have to take a look at that.
Yeah, the Chargers have had some problems with their offensive line also. What do you think there, Mr. Scott? Do you think that Gus Edwards gives the Chargers more versatility than Austin Eckler did?
No, I'd agree. I'd agree with Dave. A good back, but the versatility piece seems to be lacking. So no, I don't. Some of these moves are just like they're just moving people to move people. I mean, I don't know if the salary cap is coming in, and I'm not seeing all of those behind the scenes issues, but some of the moves that I'm seeing aren't making a lot of sense to me based on the production that I see.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, for what Austin Eckler signed for, they signed Gus Edwards for more. which really didn't make sense to me. They could have just kept Austin, but they, there was probably some bad blood there because of what happened last season when he wanted his extension. But yardbarker.com says that these are the three hottest seats on the Rams roster. Number one is Cooper Kupp. Number two is cornerback Kobe Durant. And number three is cornerback Derion Kendricks. Do you agree with that assessment, Dave?
This is on the Rams roster?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, with Cooper Kupp, I could see it because he's making a lot of money. So at some point they might be in the cap problems. The things with Kobe Durant and Derion Kendrick, both secondary guys, is they hardly cost anything. I always kind of look at the value. How much are these guys making? And I think that they're down like near the minimum, not much over the minimum. And so it's kind of like, well, these guys could be depth, not necessarily starters, but they might still stick to the roster as depth if they're not performing well enough to be starters. But Cooper Kupp, when he's scheduled to be making, I don't have the figure in front of me, but it's way more than $1 million. It's probably around 28 million or whatever. Then, at some point they may be looking at, hey, how are we cap wise? Can we keep him? And plus he's not getting younger, and they got the the young guys coming up.
I think he's 31, and they have that young rookie that catches everything that you throw even near.
Is that Paku?
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
All you have to do is throw it in his direction, and he seems to catch it. But I think the problem is that both of these cornerbacks were high draft picks, and they're coming off rookie contracts, I believe. I'm not sure. Again,
No, they'll still be on their rookie contracts, and they're hardly making anything. I mean, they're just, NFL standards.
Yeah. But what do you think about the Rams there, Mr. Scott?
Yeah, Kupp has been a valuable piece, but again, when you're making that kind of money, and I think he had been hurt, missed some games, so I could see him moving on from there, and those backs seem to be somewhat replaceable. So overall, I thought the Rams showed life at the end of the season, so I still think that there's some possibilities for them.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your 49ers there, Mr. Scott. Here's the three predictions for the hottest seats on the 49ers. Number one is head coach Kyle Shanahan. Number two is offensive lineman Spencer Buford. And number three is defensive lineman Javon Hargrave. What do you think about the 49ers there, Mr. Scott?
Well, I think the 49ers should be pretty much intact. I mean, they've got a low-paid quarterback that seems to be a starter for a while. Shanahan, there's a few gaffes, but I mean, he gets you to the game. So, I mean, I think that they're going to run this back. And as far as what they do with some of the pieces, I don't know. That lineman, I'm not sure what his salary is. If he's a high-paid one, then they could easily move on in the draft then for him. So, but I think they're still formidable.
What do you think, Dave?
Well, hey, I'd be ecstatic if they fired Kyle Shanahan. Get him out. I mean, the guy wins a lot of games. Yeah, he's blown it in the playoffs, and I guess when he was the offensive coordinator, with Atlanta, that's when New England won 28 or came back from 28-3 down. But I'm not a big fan. Hey, I'm a Pittsburgh guy. We've had 3 head coaches since 1969, and like I didn't like it when who was it? The Chargers fired Marty Schottenheimer. He had given him a 13-3 season not long before they fired him. It's like that never made sense to me. So, but hey, go ahead and fire him. I'd be happy. Javon Hargrave, I mean, he's due to make $28 million in 2025. He's 31 years old, so he was paid $9 million this year, and it's due to jump up that much. So when you take the age into consideration, and then the big bump up, I think he could be a real candidate. Although I love Jawabble. But with Burford, he's still on his rookie contract, and he was starting games. So I just don't look at the starters. You need to have depth, and so why would you get rid of a guy that's still on his rookie contract, making like $1.2 million a year, and who started all these games for you? Maybe maybe you're going to replace him, but keep him around for depth, at least for another year, till he's out of his rookie contract.
Yeah, okay. All those make sense. Let's talk about Dak here. Because everybody thought that Dak was going to get this extension so that the Cowboys could save money, da-da-da-da. But it seems like Jerry is not down with that. Dak is expected to play out his current contract for year 2024, and then he would become, I believe, an unrestricted free agent. I don't think he's a restricted. But anyway, does this signal the end of Dak in Dallas for you, Dave?
I think he has another year.
Yeah, this year.
Well, we're in 2024. I think
Right.
he'll become a free agent because he's owed 85 or 95 million.
Right.
So and Jerry Jones is he gonna? He's not gonna leave $95 million laying around. So no, I would expect them to, if they're not happy with them, to try to do a transaction. But I mean, they can't afford to eat all that money.
We said that about Denver, and they just ate 85.
Well, let's see what happens at Denver.
And Mr. Scott,
and this is Jerry Jones. Is Jerry Jones going to be eating $95 million?
Yeah, and Wilson was unproductive. I mean, Wilson is clearly not the Russell Wilson of old. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. But I'm sure that there's other opinions on that. But I mean, that's what we.
But wait a minute, now, let's talk about Dak first. Is Dak gonna be back in Dallas, Mr. Scott?
I think so. I mean, but I think this is a make or break kind of a deal this year. I think that if it definitely goes flat, that's it. I mean, this is really make or break time. It's put up or shut up, I think. He's gotten the bag. Jones has stood behind him, giving his money to this point. And so now he wants to see the payoff. And if it's not there, I think that this could be a move on.
When you say that, do you mean that they have to get to the Super Bowl? Do they have to win a playoff game?
I really do. I think so. I mean, when you look at who went, San Francisco with Mr. Irrelevant, and then Detroit was way up there in spite of what I know one of your cohorts just so soliloquies about the great Detroit. But I think that they're, I mean, the Dallas could take this to take the NFC. I really do.
Wow. Well, then he's sticking around. If they're going to do it, it would have to be with Dak Prescott, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to do it without him.
Yeah. But like I said, if it goes south fairly quick, I think we'll see the chessboard really move. But I mean, I think Dax has really got to get the job done.
Okay. Mr. Scott, it's your turn now. Yardbarker.com says that these are the three hottest seats on the Vikings roster. And they say it's quarterback Deron Hall, your center, Garrett Bradbury, and head coach Kevin O'Connell. What do you think about that, Mr.
Well,
Scott?
it kept O'Connell. They seem to. Oh boy, without a quarterback situation being settled now, it's really hard to say what's really going to happen with them. Are they going to try to? Jaron Hall hasn't showed anything about being a number one quarterback. I mean, he's played a game or two, but that hasn't seen anything that I've seen that they're going to make him the quarterback. Now, I guess when we get to camp, we'll see what happens. And then Bradbury was their starter, and their line was poor. So, they got their work cut out for them, I think. But that O'Connell, he's going to be there. They've got to figure this quarterback thing out. They've got to. That's the main thing I think that they have to figure out. So I don't see O'Connell on a hot seat though. I don't, especially with getting rid of Cousins. There's got to be some retooling after that.
Okay. Dave, I got to ask you this one here, at least starting out with you. Is running back Derrick Henry the best addition to the AFC North?
Well, we'll see, because if Russell Wilson leads the Steelers into the playoffs, that would be a hard no.
Okay. How do you feel about that, Mr. Scott, with King Henry coming down to the AFC North, leaving the Titans behind that Ravens makeshift line?
Boy, I think
that was Lamar Jackson, though.
I think that's just the next piece that they need. I think if he's a semblance of the old Derrick Henry, I think that this could be 15-2 type season. I really do. I mean, I think they've got to have some real chip on their shoulders about how last season ended. So I think, getting Henry, if he's healthy, keeping him ready through camp, I expect him to be explosive. I really do. I expect them to probably go to the bowl.
In fact, Derrick Henry might be the third best addition to the AFC North, because not only have Russell Wilson leading the Steelers to the playoffs, but have Patrick Queen, the former Raven, just demolishing and wrapping Derrick Henry up.
Well, as we go into new seasons, there's always wishful thinking. There's always, if I could have this, but this isn't Christmas. And so I think Derrick Henry, I mean, he's been probably the best back in the league for the past few years. And
do you see another rushing title in the cards for Derrick Henry?
I don't know that they'll necessarily need that. I mean, with their defense, they can blast those first downs, get that short yardage stuff. I think that's just what they needed.
Mr. Scott, their defense has been on the decline for the last couple of years. You got to look at that Ravens defense. They're not the old Ravens defense that everybody in the AFC North used to be afraid of.
They lost a few pieces.
They've lost a few, but I still think that's a very good move for them. And I think they've got the AFC pretty much. I don't see teams like, there are other. I'm trying to think who else would I like there.
Cincinnati with Burrow back.
Yeah, Cincinnati. Cleveland seems to be out of the picture now. So
you don't like Mr. Massage? They put some pieces out there for him. They got him a new wide receiver.
Well, we'll have to see if he really wants to play. I mean, I don't really.
They got him.
He's already
They
got the
got
bag, so sometimes it's hard. It's like BB King says, it's hard to sing the blues when you're doing okay. So
he
it's
only got 285 million, Mr. Scott. It's not like he got a whole lot of money. I mean, but now this should be Mr. Scott's favorite time because now Dave he gets to listen to you. And I have a couple questions for you. Number one, the Steelers signed running back Cordell Patterson, but would we have signed him had the kickoff rules not changed? That's part two of that. David Carr predicts that Justin Fields will be the Steelers' starting quarterback by the end of the season. And the Steelers do sign a third quarterback. His name was Kyle Allen. So my last question, Dave, center, cornerback, or best player available? What do we
All
do?
right, yeah. I'll take these in turn, and then I'll mention Art Rooney said a couple of things that didn't sit well with me, and I'll talk about that at the end. But with Cordell Patterson, no, the reason that they got him was because of the new kickoff rule. That's exactly why they got him, because it's going to require 2 returners, just not one returner. And so he would be one of them. Now, the thing is, he's 33. And like, is he going to be able to still produce? I think back to when Mike Tomlin had a love affair with Jacoby Jones, who was a great returner for the Ravens, and brought him in, and he was a big bust. And, he had been a great returner, and that's the problem. He was in the past tense. But he won't be the only returner. You'll have 2 guys back there. It'll be interesting to see who else they put back there. That maybe they could even put Connor Hayward back there, or continue with Igwebuike. But I think absolutely the reason they signed him was because of the new kickoff rule. David Carr, he's also said several things. He said by week 1 at one point that Justin Fields would be. So I guess we're talking about the quarterbacks. So, right now, Mike Tomlin has said that Russell Wilson is in the pole position. He's the starter, but Justin Fields will have a chance to compete. And the way I look at it, and the way the Steelers are, I'm pretty sure week 1, Russell Wilson will be the starter unless he just can't pass the ball in training camp. And I remember watching Charlie Batch. His arm became a spaghetti. It became spaghetti, and you could see that in camp when he was passing, next to the other quarterbacks. So it'll be interesting to see Russell Wilson at camp alongside Justin Fields. I've never seen these guys in person, and it'll be fun to see how they're, whether they're throwing the ball through the car wash with it staying dry. That would be nice to see. And the thing is with Russell Wilson, although they'll start with him, yeah, he's 35. They'll see how much juice that they can get out of him. But now you got Justin Fields, 25, still on his rookie contract. And if he does get onto the field this year, we'll get an idea, hey, could he possibly be the starter for the next few years? Because after this season, right now, they don't have anybody signed for 2025. And so what they're going to have to do is to I would be surprised if they tried to sign both Wilson and Fields to longer-term contracts at the end of the season. But let's see what happens. But I think that Wilson will start out, but I think that eventually Fields might get onto the field. And once he does, if he's playing well, then it means that the Steelers, instead of giving up a 6th-round draft pick for him, they'll have given up a 4th-round draft pick. But that's still good if he's playing very well, because then he could be the new leader of the team.
Well,
Uh,
what happened to the Wicked Pickett? I mean, didn't they? I thought they had a guy, and then all of a sudden he just vanished.
oh,
He,
he turned the Pittsburgh corner. You missed Sue's corner. He turned the Pittsburgh corner, and
Yeah,
as Sue said that if you turn the Pittsburgh corner, you've basically done something where they're going to ignore you for the end of time. They had two businesses that are already. Primanti Brothers is giving out $25 gift certificates for anybody that turns in a Kenny Pickett Steelers jersey. And Kennywood Park is giving a free day pass to anyone that comes with the Pickett jersey there. So he's you should have heard Sue's corner, because she talked about the Pittsburgh corner, and he could have left more gracefully. And but he's a Jersey guy.
yeah, but how does Russell Wilson feel about? Then they sign him, and then they go get Fields.
Yeah, but they only signed him to a 2-year contract. It wasn't like they signed him forever.
Yeah, and the thing is both of them expressed the desire to come to Pittsburgh. And in Justin Fields' case, he claims that he's emulated his play off of Russell Wilson. So this is a perfect opportunity for Russell Wilson to kind of mentor Fields. We'll see how it works, but right now it's a love affair. We're in a honeymoon period. We haven't played any games yet, but I think the Steelers are pretty happy where they're sitting. And with Kyle Allen, he was the Buffalo backup. So Buffalo now has Mitch Trubisky, and now we have Kyle Allen. Hopefully he won't have to see the field at all.
Well, I know this is a touchy question, but is this make or break for a coach named Mike Tomlin?
Oh, hell no. No.
Well, the situation with Mike Tomlin is next year's.
Can we just be objective? Can we be objective about this? Can we?
Yeah, 2025 is the last year of his current contract. Now, Art Rooney II said he will be extended at the right time. Well, they haven't extended him yet. He hasn't signed a contract yet. So I don't know. Will that be for 2 years? Will that be for 5 years? Don't know yet. But that should be happening sometime between now
and he's been there 20, hasn't he? Hasn't he been there 17, 18, 19?
18. He started in 2005 or 6.
Long time ago.
Yeah. But he's, hey, I'm actually working on a book to talk about all the Steelers head coaches before Chuck Noll. There was like 16 of them. And that's from 1933 to 1969. Now from 1969 to today, we've only had 3. So then the other question, James, center, cornerback, or best available player? I presume you're talking about the first round pick.
Right.
A lot of people are talking about wide receiver because of the Deontay Johnson trade.
Well, that's why I asked you, because I listened to a little bit of the Townhouse, and I was right. That's why I said best available player, because a lot of you were talking about a wide receiver, as you said.
Right. And then, but other people were talking cornerback.
Well, I put cornerback in there.
Is like the logic about center is that, like Zach Frazier, a lot of people have a second round grade on. The problem is like that's their biggest hole is center. And the difficulty is that JPJ, that Powers Johnson from out west, he plays both tackle and center. And so he's going to go in the first round. And if the Steelers don't pick him in the first round, is Zach Frazier going to be available by the time it's the Steelers' turn to pick in the second round?
At 58?
What's that?
At 58?
Right. And so for me, I have center circled. I would rather them take care of the problem. It's uncharacteristic of the Steelers, but I would rather them take care of the problem in the first round, because wide receiver is supposed to be deep and tackle is supposed to be deep, but center is not so deep. So does that answer your mail there? And then I did want to mention some things that Art Rooney II said that didn't sit well with me. I'll mention two of them. And I'm a company guy. I'm the Steelers guy first, right? But Art Rooney, number one, he commented during the owners' meeting this past week when they passed all those rules we were talking about. He talked about the NFLPA poll, where the Steelers got a very poor grade. It was specifically Art Rooney on his willingness to spend money on the training facility. And basically the way Art Rooney II responded was, well, that poll is just an NFLPA marketing tool. And I prefer just to talk to my team direct. But he kind of dismissed the poll. And I think what I did not sit well with me is that from a PR point of view, he's not going to win that battle, because the NFLPA polled the players. This was the players saying what they thought. And I think he was tone deaf there. I did not like that. The second thing is, when it came to the rules, Pittsburgh had supported the hip drop tackle. They made the proposal on extending the trade deadline to week 9. But Art Rooney II said he was against the new kickoff rule. But it was going to pass anyway, so he voted yes. And I'm like thinking to myself, well, if you were against it, just vote no. Be principled. And to me, just to go along with the crowd, I think 3 or 4 teams voted against it. Well, why not be the 4th or 5th team to vote against it? And I maybe from his thinking, he wanted to show the solidarity of the NFL. But to admit that you were against the rule, but then to vote for it, I did not like that. As a burger, I didn't like that. So anyway, I just thought I would lay that out there.
What did you guys think about Clowney signing with Carolina? Mr. Wardell put that up on the chat a lot earlier, and I didn't get to it. Sorry about that, Robert. What did you think about Clowney signing with Carolina there, Mr. Scott?
I don't know. Carolina I don't know what they're really doing, and I don't know what Clowney has left. I don't know. I don't know what Carolina. They seem like they should be in a rebuild mode. That's what I'm thinking.
So, Dave, you promised Robert that we'd answer that later. So, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, he's like 31. I've never been. I think that he's always underperformed from his height, but I didn't like him playing against the Steelers. And so he's out of the AFC North. I'm happy with that. One less person to worry about. But with Carolina, yeah, they're making a lot of moves, and I don't know how that's going to all add up. I'm not so sure about how that's going to work out there down in Carolina. And, of course, that's where Deontay Johnson ended up, right? Yeah. We'll see. I think that owner's had he's had some difficulties. And it's kind of a shame because, that was a team that they forced Jerry Richardson to sell. And I don't know. Yeah, Carolina has not been doing very well lately.
No, they haven't.
No.
Uh, but yeah, we'd like to thank Robert for listening in. I see Daniel Berry is there from Sports Highlights. So yeah, we'd like to thank those guys for listening in and the questions that they asked. But Dave, final thoughts.
Well,
Unless Mr. Scott has some questions for you about Mike
yeah,
Thomas. Yeah.
yeah. Did you want to ask me any more about Mike Tomlin or?
Well, I mean, since I kind of understand the situation when both have kissed the ring, and so no, I just really wanted to understand that quarterback situation, and I understand that Wilson was Denver's picking up most of the money, so it's really not much of a risk. So, and then Fields, I thought Chicago really should have kept Fields. I mean, I
Yeah.
thought he was worth building around from what he showed towards the end of the season. So this could, I hate to say it, but this could be a coup type move, and we'll just see. I think that if the Pittsburgh is sub 500, I think there could be some bigger changes. I won't say.
Oh yeah.
Well, I tell you, from the fan point of view, the mantra coming up to the end of this season has been, you guys keep on doing the same old thing over and over again, and it's not working. All of a sudden, Omar Khan has, I mean, the trade for, getting Russell Wilson for $1.2 million. The other 38 or 37.8 million Denver's paying. They pick up Justin Fields for
3.2.
a sixth-round draft pick, maybe a fourth if he plays this year, and then trading Kenny Pickett, who normally Pittsburgh has been, they would hang on to a player, and no, they just traded him and trading Deontay Johnson, which I think they got. We'll see, but I think they got the short end of that deal. I think that Carolina might have came out ahead on that, but we'll see. But they're doing, even if they have a losing season, the thing is they've made a lot of effort to make a lot of changes and to completely rebuild this roster. And I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to give TJ Watt and Cam Hayward and Minkah Fitzpatrick an opportunity to win some playoff games. Because if none of them have none of them have a trophy, and then and they have not been very successful in the playoffs. And so I think that's what the team is trying to do, and I think that the fans will kind of recognize that that's what the team is doing. And if they end up with the losing season, well then, hey, they're going to be drafting very high for a quarterback in 2025. Maybe they'll have Shadir Sanders. And then with Mike Tomlin, I think that he will not coach with another team. I don't think, and I think he's going to coach until he's had his fill, and then he'll retire. And I think it'll be up to him. I don't think that Dan Rooney or Art Rooney II will fire him. It would have to take something kind of dramatic outside of the football thing. Him doing something really dumb. But he's a very grounded guy, and the players seem to love to play for him. And a lot of people, they want to come to Pittsburgh. And that's not because Omar Khan is making the deals, but the reason that they want to come to Pittsburgh is because of who's coaching.
All right, Dave. Final thought.
I don't think Anthony's buying that, man.
He's like the guy when the used car salesman slips that first price over to him. You know, it's like
Let me talk to your manager, huh?
final thoughts, Dave.
Yeah, I'm going to circle back to what we were talking about in the very beginning, and I have a quote from Daryl Davis, and you know who I told you, you know, the guy that befriends the KKK guys. But he said, "quote The lesson learned is ignorance breeds fear. If you don't keep that fear in check, that fear will breed hatred. If you don't keep hatred in check, it will breed destruction." Unquote. I thought that that was really quite a quote from this guy. I once watched him on. I watched him talk to Joe Rogan for like 2.5 hours, all about his history. It was just fascinating. And I think the idea, and I think where he's coming from is to find a common ground to build tolerance. And that might not be comfortable. You know, he's saying, hey, seek the common ground, try to find a great, you know, what do we have in common to build the tolerance rather than emphasizing our differences. And and that might not be comfortable at times, but I believe it can be really rewarding, which is why I had that opinion about the girls team and them staying. You know, if I had been the coach, I would have kept them right there in Coeur d'Alene. But those are my final thoughts for tonight.
Mr. Scott, you want to give your book a plug before we leave, and your final thoughts.
Oh yeah, well, the Scott Collection and Minnesota's Black Community Project, Minnesota's Black Community 21st Century, both doing well. We've got another shipment of books, and our documentary, we finished the filming, and now I'm putting together some music for it, and we're editing. So yeah, on that end, work is going good, and I keep watching some of the events of today, and as I've said in the past, I predicted this, the demise of the rap game. I predicted this, and I have been brought down by you're seeing what's happening, FBI raiding homes, but what's bigger than that is I'm losing faith in the FBI. I mean, the FBI raids ex-president Trump's homes, but there's no arrests. And then they raid the great rappers' homes, but there's no arrests. There's no. So I'm beginning to lose. In our media, are we really being told, getting the real story? I mean, there are even outlandish things now, and with this AI, that's a whole other type of a thing. I mean, they could have a James King and on the show here saying words that James King I know would never say, but it seems like it's coming out of his mouth. And so those things are becoming more and more apparent. And then with this deal in Baltimore, with that bridge falling like a toy.
Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Yeah. And
felt like an erector set. People don't even
that's
know
1.6 miles of bridge.
Yes.
That's not a little bridge.
No. And it just felt like a toy. And it's almost like, well, it would have to be almost hit in the right spot or something, you would think. And so are we really finding out what's going on in these things in the media? So I'm watching some of these things with a grain of salt. And and it makes me circle back to my love of sports, because it seems to be the equalizer to what's gone on in the field now. And I think Demetrius has talked about this a couple of weeks ago about the refereeing, the concerns the refereeing, and our player Rudy Gobert got fined $100 for making a gesture about a call.
You mean $100,000?
$100,000, and so, and as I've said, with the betting, with this thing becoming more and more prevalent, boy, I don't know what the control is going to be with that. I mean, I think it's going to be
a slippery slope.
You have to keep our eyes open on it. Yeah.
No, I think those are all wise words, and I think skepticism is healthy. listen to everything, but
Yeah.
have a healthy dose of skepticism, and I think is wise.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
All right, guys. Well, hey, great spending some time with you gentlemen. Sorry, Demetrius couldn't be here. We knew that Bo and Reggie wouldn't be here, but Reggie will be back next week for sure. And Don will be back also. So you guys have a great weekend. Looking for. Wait a minute. Hold it. Isn't there another season getting ready to start soon? Uh, what's up with your beloved Twins, Mr. Scott?
Oh, well, Twins baseball so far, it's all about the rotation. I'm still mystified. Well, the trade where you trade the batting champion, 2 batting championships in a row for a pitcher. He seems to be a number one pitcher, Mr. Pablo Lopez. Um, but the rotation is going to be the issue. But the starting lineup looks great. Correa, Buxton, the young kid Royce Lewis. I mean, it looks like he's going to be a MVP type person. So yeah, I'm looking forward to. But they're starting Thursday, and I mean, as cold as I mean, but they'll be in Kansas City, so it should be a little bit better there. But yeah, I think Twins are looking good for this division. I think they're all the way around. Minnesota's looking great. I mean, Timberwolves looking great. The jury's still out, obviously, on the Vikings, but the Twins, I think they'll be right in if the rotation comes through. That's the big thing.
Yeah,
and they never got an NHL franchise to replace the North Stars, did they?
Oh yeah, of course they do.
Oh, who's that?
The Wild.
Ah, the Wild. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
In some places, if they hit the ball Thursday, by the time it gets to the outfield, it'll be an icicle. So it'll be real. They'll really be playing hardball.
Yeah.
So
Fortunately, they're not opening here. But again, when we get back to the gambling, Mr. Otani, he's able to hide behind the language barrier. And has you speak for me and you speak for. But there's something, it could be something more to that than we know right now.
Well, Sue asked me the question. She asked if it were any player other than Otani, would Major League Baseball have suspended him? And I said, probably. He just brings in too much money.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story. I mean, that was millions they're talking.
We have a fairy tale about that called the goose that with the golden egg. You don't kill the goose with the golden egg.
That's right.
I mean, baseball is already struggling bad enough, for the fan base and everyone else. But I hope you're right there, Mr. Scott, and we'll see how your Twins hang out there. And Dave, I just hope we can get out of the basement for a while.
Yeah. It's all got it right on this pitching. They try to get some pitching. I hope it works out for them.
Yeah. Well, guys, hey, have a great night. Have a great weekend. And I'll see everybody next week. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Take care.